like I said, getting to see that show, I've never bought tickets for something so fast in my life. It was like a religious experience. And I don't know if you saw them, but they played I can't think of the name of it, but they played that
Sick ass Mercyful Fate shirt, dude.
Thanks, man. One of the best fucking albums ever.
Oh man, it's a tough call between that and Melissa for me, man. It's like I think they're like a 1 or 2 minute difference, and it's like I'll take the bonus minute, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. They both have their ups and downs. I love them both just about equally. All I know is when Merciful Fate did that last tour, that US tour, I have never bought tickets to something so fast in my life.
Hold on, let me
I
start this before we get into the conversation, but I want to welcome Connor. He's the guitarist for the band. Do you say it Dissentience or Dissentience?
we say Dissentience. I don't know that there's a right or a wrong way, but
Oh,
we say Dissentience.
I was filming the review and I was like, I don't know how the hell to pronounce it, so I'll say it each way. That way I'm covered.
We've heard some crazy pronunciations. We've been called the Descendants at shows. We've been called all sorts of things, man. So you are closer with either of those than most people get ever.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming to the Distorted Dialogue, dude. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, absolutely.
back to the Don't Break the Oath shirt we were talking about before we clicked on here. I'll take Don't Break the Oath musicality wise, but I appreciate the nostalgia because I think Evil grabbed me first. Did you go to you were saying the show you bought tickets to? Did you go down to Silver Spring?
No, they played the Fillmore in Philly.
Oh,
It was
okay.
amazing, man. That was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I mean, I've been so my dad was like an old school punk and metalhead. And growing up, one of the records that for some reason my mom enjoyed and my dad was Garage Inc. by Metallica.
Okay.
And she probably like turned the page, but he fucked with Merciful Fate on there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I knew Merciful Fate since I was like I could walk basically.
Yeah.
Um, and they haven't been active most of that time. So like I said, getting to see that show, I've never bought tickets for something so fast in my life. It was like a religious experience. And I don't know if you saw them, but they played I can't think of the name of it, but they played that new track on that tour that was like such a throwback to those first like two albums in the EP era.
Yeah.
So good. There's if you haven't heard it, I know there's video out there, so try and track that down. It's
We
so
drove,
good.
we live in Pittsburgh, so we're just across the state from you. But we drove down to Silver Spring, Maryland, and we caught them
Okay.
with, I think it was 2022. We caught them with Midnight and who was the third? Creator.
Creator. Yeah.
And it was I think that was my first time seeing Midnight live. It was either my first or second. And they brought a stripper out. And
Yep. Dude,
I was just like, man, it was like, I don't know, 700 watts of metal just getting blown in your face. Then the stripper comes out, and I'm like, how do you follow that? Like,
honest to God, man, you don't. And I enjoy Creator, I do, but at that point, my buddy and I that went, we were just like, oh, like we got to just like get a couple beers or something during Creator set, like take a breather quick because Midnight was so good. It's that was my second or third time seeing those dudes, and they always put on that level of show. We
yeah,
caught them at the what was it, the Waste 25th anniversary show
okay.
in Richmond last year, and that was like awesome,
I
awesome. Those
saw
dudes,
the lineup, and I was like, I think Richmond's 5 hours from me, and I was like, "Ugh, I'm close because I think Enforced was on the bill too.
yeah,
Or, yeah,
yep, yeah.
Enforced, yeah, yeah. And I was like, man, I'll drive to California to see those dudes. Like, they're the best. Well,
Yeah, that was a wicked show.
let's talk about your album, Kaiju. I mean, before we talk about everybody else, I guess it's an EP, not a full length, but man, is it brutal, dude. Really like it a lot.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this one for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot in it. Like, I would consider it melodic death metal, but it has like some definite thrash influence, some progressive like writing song structures, and like heavy like doom influences. It just feels weighty. And
Sure.
even like the subject matter. Like I lived in Okinawa for a year, so I'm like really into like Japanese monsters and stuff too. So
Oh yeah.
like this was a great album, man. Why don't you tell me about like what went into creating it?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, as far as the genre goes, I mean, that is something that not just with this EP, but with everything, I mean, we take very seriously. We all grew up in such different environments musically and bring so many different influences to the table. You know, I think death thrash in some shape or form is the easiest label to throw at it. But I mean, we also grew up in an era of like um, we're all right around 30 years old. So like Guitar Hero was big. So like anything on like the Guitar Hero soundtracks was huge to us. You know, Jimmy's favorite guitar player is probably Slash or
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
And we were still buying guitar magazines when like Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold and Alexi Lyle and all those dudes, sort of the last bastion of like guitar heroes, if you will, were, you know, coming up. And
Yeah.
even Bullet for My Valentine, Trivium, I know not the heaviest of bands, obviously, but for middle schoolers, that was awesome to see younger guys playing guitar, ripping solos, and again, hindsight being 2020, I've gotten into much heavier, much faster, much whatever music since then. Um, but having those guys to look up to was a huge deal for us. And we still kind of harken back to all that. And that whole era of like the new wave of American heavy metal, there kind of didn't seem to be any rules, which
Yeah.
was, every band kind of had their own sound coming out of it. Whether it was Lamb of God, God Forbid, who, we work with Corey all the time, All That Remains, like all those bands were huge on us, especially in our formative years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just on the genre note, there's that. But as far as Kaiju, the record and the whole experience, if you will, that kind of came about as a joke. There's an awesome drive-in near us called Mahoning Drive-In, and they were doing I think it was the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla the one night. And Nick and I, along with another buddy, went to go see it. And our other buddy, he sings in a few bands locally, and we were just like, yeah, kind of just joking around, drinking beers, whatever. We were like, Mastodon, like they used to sound like a fucking Mastodon, like stomping through the ice age,
Yeah.
and now they don't. Still love it, but they don't have that like remission type sound anymore. Gojira, same way, right? They used to sound like Godzilla stomping through Tokyo, and now they kind of don't. And we were joking about starting like the local kind of like SOD style supergroup and just calling it Kaiju. Write a song about like every song is a different monster from, Toho or Ultraman or, whatever. And it didn't really pick up, to say the
Yeah.
least. Nick and I started writing a few riffs for it, and that's kind of where it ended. Fast forward probably 2 years, and we were talking about what we wanted to do for our next release is Dissentience. And Jimmy actually brought up, he's like, "You guys still have that kaiju stuff, don't you?" And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah." Yeah, again, it was a few riffs. It was really only Nick and I that worked on it, so it wasn't like it was anything. We didn't have to ask permission from anybody to use the stuff.
Sure, sure.
Um, and then it evolved from sort of this joke band into, well, let's write a whole concept EP about it. And the whole thing really came down to we watched some Ultraman episodes, some Godzilla flicks, anything we could get our hands on. And we were like, let's just break this down into 4 parts. Every one of those movies is a little bit different, but let's try to boil it down to its 4 essential like story beats, which were, according to us, um, the arrival of the monster. There's always that scene where you have like all the government leaders and world leaders around the table and your military dudes, sort of combined with the city freaking out. And then obviously the big destruction
Destruction.
scene,
Yeah.
big destruction scene. And then the monster either flying back to its planet, walking back into the sea, whatever that may be, the monster kind of just like leaving pretty much unscathed within this just path of destruction. And we went from there. It was when we were writing Empire, the song Clinical Psychosis specifically, uh, it was about kind of like being in the mind of like an MK Ultra test patient
Okay.
while it was happening. And we did the same thing. We had that idea for the lyrics, no strict lines written, just the idea, and wrote with that in mind. And it really helped us during the songwriting process. If we were ever stuck, it's like, well, where are we at, like conceptually? Where are we at in the story? Where are we at in the song? And we can kind of, it sort of creates that synesthesia. You want to invoke whatever you're talking about with the music. And having that, especially with this Kaiju EP plotted out ahead of time, anytime that we got stuck in the writing process, it was just like, all right, where are we at right now? Where in the story are we? Where in the movie are we? Everybody close their eyes, think about what we're doing right now, and then boom, let's go.
It's funny you mentioned about closing your eyes. Last week I just put it up yesterday. Yesterday, I put up an interview with the band Fendrana from Mexico City, and he's a one-man classical composer, and he wrote an extreme metal. Well, he wrote this, I guess, is a second extreme metal album, but he brings in a lot of like sounds that you would like not incorporate in metal. Like he has a flute solo and like some viola and cello and stuff, but it's
Yeah.
really heavy. And it's mostly he has like some narration passages, just a few, and you can close your eyes and you can just feel the story just flow. And I felt the same with your albums, and especially with the titles helping it out. Like even the lyrics, like take the lyrics out of it, you can just feel the flow of the album. Like it feels like that. The monster arrives, and there's this planning, and then like mass destruction is chaos absolute. And then Death Shroud, it's like a nice closure of the saga. And I'm thinking like the more I get into like metal, the more like concept albums and like some creative writing like that really like adds to the appeal of like just the whole musical experience.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of probably my favorite lyricists of all time was Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. And that dude could create just worlds within his lyrics, man. I mean, I there are certain albums that I consider seasonal in a way, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But Ritual by Black Dahlia for me is such a fucking like fall album, and opening with Shrine to Madness, which is just the ultimate Halloween song, or one of the ultimate Halloween songs to me.
Yeah.
It's like it encapsulates everything not only that I loved about Halloween as a kid, but as an adult, and as far as the season goes of just fall and the orange leaves and the smell in the air and just everything. And again, that synesthesia of like the best music, um, we try to encapsulate that. That's kind of the standard that I want to say we hold ourselves to, is just, if we wouldn't listen to it, we don't want to make it. We don't want
Yeah.
to put something up that seems subpar, or that, I don't know, we have any kind of real issue with. Now, hindsight's always 2020. I could tell
Yeah.
you a million things on Empire or Mask that I would change now, but during the writing process, during the recording process, it's always try to be the best that you can be. And if we would be disappointed seeing one of our favorite bands do XYZ or write something like this or what have you, then we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Why should we, even though we're not on that level per se, why should we hold ourselves to any other standard? And I think
Yeah.
that goes for metal across the board, any kind of creative process that you're getting yourself into, whether it's
But
just, writing or whatever.
but I think as a creator, like you just said, like hindsight, like you have Kurt Hammett and like Eddie Van Halen going back and complaining about like some of their riffs on like Master of Puppets, and you're like, come on, dude, like, all right, you have one note that's you maybe bent a little weird, but like,
Yeah.
I so like, don't be too hard on yourself. This is a killer album, man, and like, I
I
really.
appreciate
I really like how you guys incorporated so many different like genres. Like I like Exodus is my favorite. I talk about it in like every episode, but I want like face melting, knuckle dragging, like just brutality. And the same with like I listen to Power Trip a lot, and I'm not looking for any type of like nuance. I'm looking for just face melting aggression. But with your
it.
album, with your EP, like it still was like pretty meaty because it's like around 30 minutes. And there's like a
Yeah.
lot of like albums, full lengths are like 30 minutes. So it was a nice sit down and listen to and kind of like, go over a couple times.
What's the classic Slayer Rain and Blood line? The cassette used to just be Rain and Blood on one side, and then you flip it over, and it's just Rain and Blood again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you mentioned Exodus, and You say it's like knuckle draggy and stuff, but a massive album for us that like I remember Jimmy and I, all of us have been playing together since high school. We used to drive around and shit, and Exhibit B was such a
Oh,
massive album for us because it was it was an old school thrash band doing stuff that wasn't just old school thrash. Like there's really interesting, like almost new wave of British heavy metal, or even like mellow death, carcassy, like guitar harmonies on there, bringing in some death metal influence. It's or The Gathering by Testament, I would say the same thing.
yeah.
Like there's so much going on there past just the typical thrash stuff or death metal, boilerplate shit. And that's what made it so interesting to us. And that's why I still think Exhibit B, if aliens crash landed and they were like, give us a thrash album, I might hand them Bonded by Blood first because that's like the most thrash
Okay.
album. But Exhibit B is my favorite Exodus album and probably one of my favorite albums of all time. I fucking love that record so much.
I'm surprised it's not sitting up here because I was just spinning it. I was spinning Persona non grata yesterday, but my
Mm,
top three from Exodus is Bonded, and I like Tempo of the Damned and
that's a good
Exhibit
one.
B. But I like Tempo of the Damned because, and I say knuckle dragging metal, but like
It's
I think
relentless.
it is, but like it's very thoughtful. Like Star Spangled Banner was the first song. I'm former military, so it was the first song that allowed it was like the first song that's military oriented, that's unpatriotic, that established like how I feel about my service. Like I didn't feel this big honor. I felt more of like I don't like that and I don't support it. So it felt good that somebody else aligned with it. But when I heard Exhibit B, I was like, man, everybody puts it at the bottom of their lists, and I'm like, burn Hollywood burn, where the like just the constant innuendos and making fun of like the Hollywood celebrities. I'm like, man, it's like the Marx Brothers type wordplay to me, and I love it.
Well, even stuff like Nanking, I thought was fucking awesome because it's got that almost Slayer-esque ability to describe those atrocities to the point where you can close your eyes and almost picture it. Not that I want to, but
Right, right.
like so it's fucking in detail lyrically, but also man, those riffs,
Yeah.
and it's past just mosh riffs. It's one of those things like you said about Kaiju that I like about Exhibit B is they weren't afraid to like really go down tempo and almost get like sludgy and doomy with some of those riffs. Again, past just like a mosh middle section, like that main riff in Nanking is like, well, that's
Yeah.
a heavy hitter, man. Heavy
And
hitter.
I just did two videos for them, and my first video I did for 3111, and I put in there like, come on, Gary, like stop giving us numbers. Like fucking letters are hard enough. We're thrashers, like we're not smart. But then like I was looking at the lyrics like to the murders of 3111 and like the Goliath song and how they incorporated violins instead of a solo. And I'm like, man, after 40 some years of churning out quality thrash, you're still throwing curveballs at us, and that's awesome. And I think that's great as a
Yeah,
songwriter. But I do want, like, I hope there's like some 600 beat per minutes on there because, like, I need
there's
that
gotta
too.
be.
But
There's
that's
gotta be.
when you go back to like closing your eyes, like, you can almost feel like in Chaos Absolute, like Godzilla just literally, like, I've envisioned the old Rampage game. Like, if you remember, I'm old, man. But if you remember
Yeah,
the old arcade game where it was like these monsters destroying like buildings, that's what I
oh yeah.
imagined your album to play like. Like those
We were
monsters destroying buildings.
we were playing it. There's this spot, JB Love Drafts, out in Harrisburg, and they have like a bunch of old school like video game emulators hooked up to the TVs and shit. And it was so much fun after we were done recording this EP going and then as a band playing like Rampage World Tour as we're gearing up for a show. It's like just like mentally preparing with the visual of like destruction and all that shit.
And
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you get it.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's it was such a major thing for us to weave it all together, but also like we didn't want it to be specifically like Godzilla or Mothra or Giga or any of these specific monsters. And on the writing end of it too, and pulling from influences like H.P. Lovecraft is the master of that. You know, his entire writing style and style of horror depends on not telling you things and you envisioning the horror in your own mind, and kind of piecing things together yourself. So it's been that was a major sticking point when we were trying to write everything for this was like, okay, you know, we can guide a little bit. We can say some things sort of in passing as far as like, oh man, there's, you know, claws, there's this, but even that, like you can envision a million types of claws.
Yeah.
It's not scaly, it's not a giant lizard. We're not trying to, as much as I love the B movie aspect of Godzilla movies, the best ones are the ones that are truly horror, like that the first Godzilla, or we actually went with Matt that recorded us at Peach Pie Sound. We went with him to go see Godzilla -1 in the theater, kind of as like homework before
Yeah.
we made the EP, which was fucking hysterical because you know a lot of the kaiju concept comes from my personal love of that stuff and our general love of horror movies and B movies. Um, and then we went to go see -1, and then to see it start winning all these awards, and now it feels like Godzilla's almost back, like in the zeitgeist. We were like, we couldn't have, you know, we already had the EP written at that point, but we were like, we could not have picked a better subject matter for a concept EP.
I like it too because anything with destruction, well, destruction is just cool in and of itself, but
Yeah.
anything with destruction, like overcoming, like you can use these as metaphors too for like, a struggle in life and overcoming things like that. But for
Sure.
somebody like me who is like, I have a difficulty with moderation. So like anything I love, I go full tilt, and metal is no different. So for me, like an album like Kaiju, like you could go back and like watch a video and be like, oh man, I need to go listen to that album again. And it's like a whole world versus just like one standalone release. And then when you start, like you could, man, I got so many ideas. Curtis, when when I first started earlier, I think last year, Curtis introduced me to Cold Slither. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I've definitely heard the name before. Yeah, yeah.
They're a like a concept band. They partnered up with
Okay.
Hasbro, and
Okay.
they're all GI Joe themed. But the band
Cool.
itself is the guitarist is Gus Rios from um, Gruesome, and so they're like legit musicians too, and they're heavy and the song's good.
Yeah.
All the songs are written about like Cobra Commander, and they dress up as like the Dreadnoks from the G.I. Joe cartoon, which I'm like 46. So when I was a kid, that was huge. And then they started doing like some like shows and like a lot of theming. And you're like, man, it was received so well. Then like I just interviewed a couple other bands that were talking about their love for Transformers. And you're like, you guys could do like dissensions like figurines or you know what I mean? You guys could really have some fun with this. And
Oh
like
yeah.
I think it's cool, man. I think it's really, really cool because it's not something cheesy either. Like Transformers, you have to stay in that
Well,
canon.
and again, it goes back to like not wanting to specifically use even just like Godzilla or any of these characters. You know, we wanted this to be a very individual experience. We want the listeners to envision their own destruction, envision their own monster, and you know, all the people running and all that. It's like making a movie in your own head. Um, and I love that shit. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Artificial Brain?
No.
I heard of it. It was Dan, the old guitar player from Revocation. It was like his other band, or maybe first band.
You said artificial
Um,
brain?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They're a just disgusting fucking death metal band. Um, but all of their stuff is, and I'm probably gonna fuck this up, but it's fine. I'm not in that band. It's kind of like from the point of view of an artificial, like a robot with artificial intelligence in one way or another, and all their albums are kind of concepts. And the vocals sound like a fucking computer dying. Like it is so wild to me. But again, it like puts you in that frame of mind of what they're talking about in their music. And that was I remember listening to them for the first time. I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is so not only musically weird,
Yeah.
but conceptually weird. And then seeing those dudes just like talk about their favorite. I remember they did oh man, I forget what site it was for, but it was some interview that they did, and it was just like, here's our top five or top 10 like sci-fi books. And I'm a huge sci-fi reader, comic head.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I love that and attached to it instantly. And for us specifically, the artwork um has always been a massive component of what we do. You know, working with cool cover artists, working with cool artists for our t-shirts. I mean, I draw myself, but I have a lot of buddies in the comics industry as well, and like trying to find and work with some of them is a massive thing. But tying that visual component to the music as well, Voivod actually is the
Yeah.
perfect example. Um, I think, you know, if everybody always has that guy where it's like, oh, if I could, you know, drink a beer with so and so or whatever, or have a conversation with so and so. I would love to chat with Away from Voivod,
Okay.
because he did everything down to he letters their lyric sheets, like, and his lettering is iconic.
Yeah.
He did all of the artwork. Him and Snake did the majority of the lyrics together and all the concepts for their lyrics. Um, and just that amount of control conceptually, musically, artistically, visually, everything within that band, it's like they're so singular, and that's kind of why,
Yeah.
outside of just the weirdness of the music, I think it comes down to like they really have their hands and specifically Away in aspects of everything that they do. I love that. I absolutely love that.
But do you think that's what sets them apart from like other bands like, and I'm just picking Metallica, Megadeth, whatever, but
Oh yeah.
they have such a refined process that they have to like stay within. Whereas,
See, I would actually disagree with that. I don't think that they have a refined process as much as they allow themselves the freedom to have any process. You know, I think a band and I'll say I think that Metallica and Megadeth are odd choices there
yeah,
because I have an unpopular opinion that I don't
both
really
of
think
them.
Metallica I don't think that Metallica and Megadeth are really like thrash bands because of that. Like I think that
Yeah.
they more so than pretty much any shouldn't say any, but most other bands of that genre, and definitely of like their generation of thrash bands or Bay Area bands, they didn't really set boundaries. You know, even on that first record, Metallica's putting fucking Skinner parts and doing acoustic intros on Ride the Lightning and
Yeah.
basically doing ballads with Fade to Black and really didn't give a fuck about like, oh, this is thrash, this isn't thrash. Even within some of their thrashier songs like Fight Fire with Fire or Battery, they're not doing the stereotypical things. And I think that's why a band like Metallica or Megadeth really broke out of that scene so much more than most of the other bands that were in it. And for me, that's kind of always been why I am attracted to them so much. Um, you know, just as a musician, like that freedom of, yeah, you know, we're thrash. If you want to throw the label on it, they're thrash, but you know, how do you call the thing that should not be thrash? There's not a fast riff in that song.
Or The Unforgiven or
Right, right.
yeah.
And even Megadeth, like those early albums are fast. There's a lot of really cool things, but you know, if you were to sort of make a paint by numbers thrash, I think like Anthrax might be the only one in the big four that really falls into that. Even Slayer has their own thing
Yeah.
entirely. They're very it's like AC/DC, you know, they're very singular, and any band that comes after that sounds like that, it's like, well, they just sound like Slayer. It's not
Yeah.
they sound thrash, they sound like Slayer,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
I
but
think
you
though,
know,
like with you saying that though, like I think that that's the same thing that turned me off of those bands too. Like when you started getting around 1990 and everybody shifted their sounds into like the countdown to ex countdown to extinction, I think was what, 92 maybe. I can't remember when the Black album was. Maybe it was 94? I
was
don't
it
know.
wasn't it the Black Album was right before Countdown to Extinction, I think. I think the Black Album was 91
One
Countdown.
maybe? I can't
Yeah.
remember off the top of my head, but to me, that was like when everybody started going down. And like I was
Sure.
like, oh man, I'm getting out of thrash now. And then when Megadeth came back to Rust in Peace, and I really liked Euthanasia as a kid because of Marty Friedman is just
Yeah.
mind
Amazing.
blowing. And
One of my favorites.
but after all that, I was like, man, I don't consider either band really thrash. Like, well, I guess Megadeth kind of still was, but I just
Yeah.
felt like they got away from like thrash, and I
Yeah,
changed.
but yeah, I mean, I think even on their early stuff though, they show signs of that. Like there's a lot of bands that and this actually goes back to doing pre-production for our first EP, right? Working with Corey. Um, one of the things that he said that has stuck with me all these years is whatever you want to do musically, make sure it's on your first release. Because if you start adding things that aren't your sound, people are gonna start getting mad, or they'll think like, oh, this band is selling out or whatever. But it's if it's sort of in the mix from the beginning, then you're kind of softening that blow if you decide to go one way or the other way or mix a little bit more of this or that in your releases. And it's the thing that, like with Metallica, I know a lot of fans were mad when they did the Black Album, right? I wasn't really around then,
Yeah.
but a lot of fans were mad when that happened. For me, and maybe not being a part of it when all that came out, um, I that to me there's a massive through line. It's again like they were putting that Skinner type shit on their first album. Like it was kind of always there. I think it's surprising that maybe they went as hard of a turn into that,
Yeah.
but I'm not surprised that they made an album like that. And for Metallica and Megadeth, where they made that kind of like commercial swerve, I think a band like Voivod has the even more control over their sound and their visuals and all that. But they've almost chosen to like go weirder over the years,
Yeah.
and less commercial. But I think all of those bands have that same the same type of grip on what they want to do, and also I don't know, just a real lack of giving a fuck, which I appreciate. Even if I don't love some of the music, like I mean, I've never met a single person whose favorite album is Risk by Megadeth, but I fucking love that they made that album,
Yeah.
because it really was that. It was a risk. It was a massive like this is just what we want to do at this time. And maybe, you know, hindsight is 2020. Maybe they didn't make the best of moves doing it. But if they just made another Rust in Peace, that would have been playing it safe. They know they
Right.
can sell another million of those tomorrow if they made another one.
Yeah.
Um, so the kind of fun thing is to do the unexpected and do what you want.
Well, now that you say it like that, you have me thinking back to Mastodon, and like all of their albums are completely different, and you can see the flow and you can see the progression. And that's somebody who seems to change their sound on almost every song, whether or not release. And I think, like, when I was thinking earlier, I was reviewing a band and I was like, I always like to try to compare for like viewers or whatever, like, hey, if you like this, go check this out. And I was thinking of Gojira actually, and I was like, Gojira has segmented in their catalog. And I think like I wonder why I will cut bands like Mastodon and Gojira breaks and be like, you know what, you guys are so progressive that you can go down that road. Whereas like on Metallica or Megadeth, I'm like, nope, you're hardline thrash. You need to be thrash. And it's a weird scenario for me mentally as a listener or even a critic.
Yeah. I think it's as a culture in metal, our fascination with subgenre is a really fucking weird one.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every musical facet kind of has it, but I mean, I've never met anyone so like I'm a big hip hop guy, right?
Okay, me
I've
too.
never met any yeah, I've never met anybody in rap that is as interested in placing their favorite rappers into a category as metalheads are placing their favorite bands into a category. Yeah, they might say like, "Oh, this is Memphis hip hop or Texas hip hop." But at the end of the day, it's like, here's check out this song, check out this album. there doesn't need to be all this pretense of like, well, this, you might not like it. This is a blah blah blah, symphonic fucking Celtic black metal, blah blah whatever album. It's just, check this shit out and put it on. And if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. And I think that I think metalheads are very protective of the things that they like in a certain way because we've always like again like as a culture it's sort of ingrained in metalheads that it's this weird thing or that it's an outcast genre or what have you, but at the same time like dude man, what the hell's the name of the band? Spirit Box just played at the fucking Grammys. um People argue about whether Metallica should play the Super Bowl or not. We're past the point of this being some little scene. This is kind of everyone's music, and I think that people get really protective over the subgenre because they want that thing. They want their thrash bands to stay thrash bands because if they get
Yeah.
out of that, maybe they'll get some notoriety, and that proclivity for like keeping things underground is on one hand awesome because it means so many more fans are it's obviously like in our case, we're really not anybody yet, and people are listening to our stuff. People are actively trying to seek out what's new, what's small, what bands haven't I heard of, and that's a cool, awesome thing. But I think the byproduct of it is when you get past that, people see that as a reason to hate. Nobody's ever proud of Metallica for selling out stadiums. They get
Right.
pissed at them for it.
Yeah.
I love that fucking Jason Newsted quote where somebody's like, "Oh yeah, like your fans are accusing you of selling out," and Newsted's just like, "Yeah, we sell out. We sell out every fucking show we play. Like, there's for every person that speaks up and talks shit on it, he's like, there's how many thousands of kids out there that just want to come and hear the music and party and have a good fucking time, and like, what's wrong with that?" And the interviewer had nothing.
I could talk to you
Right.
for a half hour on Metallica, but we're running out of time. But I think
Listen,
that's
I can go for a little longer if you want.
I only got 3 minutes left, but we should I think maybe like we should reschedule and do like a part two.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Maybe like next
Absolutely.
week or something. I really had a good time doing this. And I think like before we cut off, I only got 2 minutes left, but people need to go check out Kaiju by Dissentience because it has all those things in it. It has great writing, great guitars, great drums, but it fits so many different itches, whether it's melodic death or doom or thrash. It's a great album. Where can people go get it at?
First off, I appreciate it, man. Seriously, thank you very much. Kaiju is streaming on every major platform. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. It's on Bandcamp. If you like physical media, we have CDs, we have t-shirts, we got patches, we have signed posters, all that over on Dissentience.com. Trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody. If you can spell the band name, you can get to the website. Um, and I hear all this about Bandcamp Fridays and all that stuff about, oh, we're giving the artists 100% of the profit. We have our own website. We get 100% of the profit all the time. So every cent that you spend with us, if you buy a CD, if you buy a t-shirt, whatever it is, not just at shows, it all goes right back into making more awesome shit for you guys. So if you buy something there, we really appreciate it. And it's going to go directly into the next run of shirts, the next run of CDs, hopefully vinyl. If there's a demand for vinyl, I would love to make records of this. But yeah, hit us up any of those places, and Instagram is probably the best place to catch us. Facebook as well. Reach out, let us know that you dig this shit. If you're listening to it, post it to your story where we'll repost it. Send us a message and we'll respond every time.
And I'll have links to all that stuff in the description box. So we're under a minute. I want to thank you, Connor, for swinging by, dude, and just taking time out of your day to meet with me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on the show, and let's definitely do it again sooner rather than later.